when I was younger. You had mentioned your mom. I wanted to make sure that I had my life figured out to the capacity that my mama had at 21, right? Kids, life, all this jazz. And it's like, why did I place that into my own consciousness? Why did I feed into that myth?
There is no timeline. It's made up. It's fictional. It's fantasy. But you trying to force yourself to follow this narrative and this timeline that isn't even real is keeping you miserable. And it's not worth it. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And this is Emilia.
And welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans, like every single one of you, through vulnerable lessons, stories, and technology. So, last episode, we dove into the 3 keys to getting over a breakup. How do you do that? What's the process you got to go through? Emilia and I shared some vulnerable stories, very simple tasks, and to-dos. Today, we are going to be diving into a topic that I have really worked on with so many of my clients, and it is something that I truly believe every single person listening today has struggled with. It is something that we all, in one way, shape, or form, have fallen victim to. And it is the belief that we are supposed to have our entire life figured out by 22, 23, 25, whatever that is for you. There are so many of my clients that I see every single week where they're falling into this trap of people on social media or the people in their lives or these people that they know and these people that they see. They're all checking off the check boxes, right? It's like they got the house, they're getting married, they're getting engaged, they're going on these luxurious vacations, they're having kids, they have this 6-figure job, they have animals, and they're doing all of these things. And believe me, I have fallen victim to this too, like more times than I can count. Emilia and I were like just talking about this a couple of weeks ago of like, I'm just here and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, believe me, I'm falling into it too. And we're falling into the comparison bias. We're falling into this trap of seeing what media, social media, all the people around us, what they're doing, and we're judging and comparing ourselves. And in one way, shape, or form, we are saying, because of them, because of what they have, look at what I don't have. And taking that to mean all of these terrible things about ourselves. That we're not good enough. That we're not valuable, that we're somehow falling behind, and that in the race of life, we're far behind and we just need to catch up and we just need to, do all the things and get all of the things and then everything will be fine. And the message that I want everyone to take away today is that there is no race. This is a self-imposed, and this is going to sound a little harsh, but just bear with me. This is a self-imposed comparison and bias that we are honestly putting on ourselves because of this deep, deep fear that we're not enough or that we're not going to be enough and that we're not going to be loved if we're not checking off all these check boxes, that there's something wrong with us if we don't have that thing, or if we're not doing that thing, or if we're not becoming that thing, whatever that thing is for you. But none of that is real. Most of these people that you're seeing, whether it's people on social media or whatever, all you're seeing is a highlight reel. You're seeing the 1 or 2 really amazing things that they have going on in their life. And it might not even be that amazing. Social media glamorizes everything. And when people tell stories about their lives, they glamorize it. So we're taking these stories that people are saying or what they're showing, and we're creating this interpretation that because they have that and I don't, that I'm not enough. or because our parents were married and had a house and had kids by the age of 27, like my mom. My mom was married with 2 kids and they had their own home at my age. And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm not even in a relationship. I'm living on my own. I don't compare to that. And so then we start feeling bad. But what if it's not true? What if that narrative is just this false story that we have been convincing ourselves that is honestly keeping us stuck from the potential that we actually could have if we just embraced and accepted where we were right now in this moment and just kept working on that?
The struggle in that, though. You know, people are so uncomfortable, and myself included, to share in that with you. The discomfort with being in the comfort of the present moment and recognizing that you are in a different space, chapter, season, trajectory than literally everyone around you. Or you might be on similar trajectories, but in a different season. A similar circle, but different spaces. Emotionally, mentally, physically, tangibly, intangibly. I was talking to a client about this, like, that we were talking about like accomplishments. And I don't really personally like love that word. My feminine kind of like gives it the ick. Yeah, but I have a lot of reference to it too, because ultimately what's underneath that, and I was sharing with this client, was we're talking about just doing a year in review. What are some of the accomplishments that you personally achieved in the last year, in 2022, right? It was a big year. And I made it a point to really, obviously that's the initial word that we know it as. But really what I emphasized was not just looking at the external tangibles, not just looking at whether or not you were able to get a relationship, get love, right? Whether or not you got a new car, or whether or not you got a promotion, or whatever this external recognition, validation, etc., that really lets that confirmation bias go like whoop, whoop, or the comparison bias like really have a heyday. What I said, instead shifting that energy into what were the internal accomplishments that you had this year? What were some of the things that you really wanted to do, to feel, to think, to believe about yourself that maybe in the past was really difficult? And we had this conversation, and I think that it's relevant to this audio because in so many ways, the myths that we're told to that sentiment, like we're supposed to have it all figured out, like we don't recognize how much we really don't give ourselves enough credit. And I see this, and I can say this because I see it enough, that we don't give ourselves the credit of where we are, what we have figured out, where we have been, how we have been able to get through these challenging moments, right? And like how we're here where we are, and shifting into that like reverence for thyself, I don't know. I think that
I agree.
I think that the figuring it out, that just causes so much anxiety for people. And I was talking to you, B, before this, of like the myth that a lot of us hold and subscribe to, which again, myths only stay alive if we subscribe to them. Right? If we give it power, if we feed energy into it.
If we follow it.
If we follow it. Yeah. And this myth that we need to have it all together. This togetherness, right? Like having all of our life not actually look like a mess, because why? Someone might judge me. It's like we are all a beautiful mess. We're all carrying the messes that we have in a different capacity. And that difference is actually what makes us valuable, unique, worthy, lovable in the world, right? That's what brings your uniqueness to the table. Instead of the hiding what you don't have figured out, instead of the running away from the uncertainty that like the present moment brings, the myth component of you have to have it all together. I remember like, all right, last thing. I remember just like feeling that same feeling. I remember I put power into this myth, B. When I was younger, you had mentioned your mom. I wanted to make sure that I had my life figured out to the capacity that my mama had at 21, right? Kids, life, all this jazz. And it's like, why did I place that into my own consciousness? Why did I feed into that myth? Thank goodness I kind of changed gears and started to look at and subscribe to a different script, if you will, which was that like, no. It's only by like doing that we will figure these things out. No one wants to tell you that because no one wants to, they're so afraid, caught up in the fear of what they don't know how to do or what to do, that they want to pretend that they have it all together because they're feeding into the myth. They don't want you to know it, but they are. And subscribing to a different belief that honestly, it's to have it all messy and stuff. It's so liberating, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get there. Like you and I had this conversation. Like I'm currently struggling with this in my own life. Like the three closest people to me right now in my life are Alan, Kevin, and Emilia. Kevin just got married. Him and Taryn are doing amazing, and he's about to get a new car and all, and like he has the cats, and you and Alan, your relationship is amazing, and now you have Tariel and you have Tucker and you have a home, and you guys are looking at getting a second home, and I'm just like, hi, I'm here. I'm like struggling over here, like barely figuring my life out. Like I'm single as shit and nothing is going anywhere. And I'm like doing the same thing every single day. And it's like, I could look at it that way. And believe me, I do.
That part wants to look at it and subscribe to that myth for sure.
That part of me wants to just look at that and make that comparison and be like, oh my God, they're so much further ahead than me. I'm messing up. There's something wrong with me because I don't have all of these amazing things.
Right.
And to the point that Emilia made, what if I compared to actually where I was last year with me right now? I was a mess.
Shoot, that shakes it up, huh?
Oh my God. If I look at the person that I was last year, I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship. I was living in an empty apartment. This time last year I was in this apartment. I was in a different apartment when I first moved out, and then I moved into here where I am now. No furniture. My mattress was on the floor. And there was nothing in here, and I was miserable. Oh my God. I was in this phase of kind of recovering after that toxic relationship that I was in. And I was a mess, an absolute mess. And then I look at myself today and I'm like, oh my God, I completely transformed that person. So based on whose timeline am I behind? Am I based on this timeline of what I'm allowing society to make me believe that I'm supposed to be married with kids and have a house and all that shit by now? Or do I follow the timeline that I've been following that says, I've transformed. My life is changing so much. I'm a completely different person than the person I was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And as long as I keep going on that trajectory, everything will come. It is so easy to fall trapped and to fall prey to that comparison bias. And believe me, I do it too. That's why I wanted to do this episode. I'm kind of saying this to myself of like, B, chill out, dude. And I'm saying this to all of you too. There is no timeline. There is no timeline. It's made up. It's fictional. It's fantasy. But you trying to force yourself to follow this narrative and this timeline that isn't even real is keeping you miserable. And it's not worth it. You're hurting yourself. You're keeping yourself trapped and not allowing yourself to evolve into who you could become if you just kept going down the right path, making whatever the next best choice is for you. And all of the people that you're admiring, that's just what they did. They're just on a different timeline than you are. And that's okay. And that's okay.
Even just like looking at like your past like trajectory in the last year, it's really cool because like the empty apartment, I remember conversations where you were like in such defeat zone because you were like comparing your new empty apartment with my like decorated home that like was like over time I was kind of decorating. And it like at the moment that you compared yourself when you and I were in different spaces, it was like, well, you already have this and that and this and that set up. And it was like I could see the defeat and the helplessness almost in a way, and hopelessness.
God, it was absolute helplessness.
Yeah, and it sucked, but it was really cool to like see that evolve because you did give yourself that space and really did see like we're totally two different humans, and that's okay. We're on different paths, different trajectories, different seasons of our lives. We've made different decisions, which puts us where we currently are, and that's okay. We're figuring it out. And I, just as much as you, in different regards, and to see even you just like start to subscribe more to that shift of that I don't need to have it all figured out. As a matter of fact, I can figure it out along the way, and I can trust in the people that are around me and that love me to help me do that. It's been cool even just to see the like interior design component of your apartment come up, and like even just like, you know, you have your salt light behind you. And at one point that was something that you would have been like, F no, that's not me. And now it's being brought into who you are, figuring out who you are in this trajectory. And so it's like that figuring out part. I think a lot of people, when they subscribe to this myth that you have to have it all figured out by 22, insert whatever timeline, age, whatever that was elsewhere projected onto you. I think that you leave massive exploration and connection to really that like personal relationship that you build with yourself in the figuring it out, right? Scraping yourself back up off the floor, loving on yourself for that, giving yourself that self-love, that compassion for not having it all figured out. And then realizing like we were all naked, born naked and afraid. And like we all started off at the same area and we all have a different path. And like that's the focus, that you are unique in your own aspect and being okay with figuring it out. That's not only important, but vital to your story.
And also realizing that nobody has it all figured out.
Nope.
Nobody. Every single person you meet is struggling with a battle you have no idea. And yes, maybe they have something you want, but maybe you have something they want. Have you ever thought about that?
Great point.
So we want to wrap this up. Amelia's smirking at me because we literally just had this conversation earlier, aka why I wanted to do this episode. So believe me, I'm not talking about this from a healed space. I'm still struggling with this too, but that's also why I think it was so important to do this, so that you guys really can hear you are not alone. And the people that you might think have it figured out, like me, for example, I don't have it figured out. I have some things figured out. Some, yeah. But there's a lot that I still don't. And I have to tell myself that that's okay.
Same. And I'm in the same boat too. It's just depending on what area you flash the flashlight. If you were to look at like books for babes, we have some things figured out. But other things, I'm like, I got some work to do in the next 24 hours because like your girls crushed the goal. Your girls identified a couple partners, but like the logistics between now and then, I'm going to have to figure it out, you know? So
step 2.
All good stuff. Exactly. Your pace, you know, and that's the thing, like loving on that. So we hope this was valuable for y'all and hope you realize that we are not going to be, you know, subscribing to that myth that you should have it all figured out. You know, I think that you should have the courage. If there's going to be any shoulds in this equation, you should have the courage to be willing to figure it out in your own record. Episode suggestions.
That's why I went like this. I thought you were closing out. I'm like, wait a minute. No.
What you got for us?
Episode suggestion 34, why your environment predicts your success.
Speaking of environment, we just got done talking about it. Look at that. Oh my God. All right, episode suggestion for me, 135, turn your losses into lessons. I believe it is a skill to do this.
Ooh.
And I know that all of us can work on this skill more and more. So I'm excited for y'all.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Happy holidays. This is coming out right around at Christmas time. So happy holidays to everyone who celebrates this. And we will talk to you all soon.
Much
Bye,
love,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.